Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Eve. This is CC on the Beach, the potty. I'm C.
I'm C.
And we're here to talk to you about some funky things today. So today's topic is strange occurrences that have happened in our lives. Maybe scary, not necessarily paranormal. Don't get the wrong idea. Just strange things that have happened to us that may have freaked us out. Finger in the butt here, stinky there.
Just general trauma, just everyday trauma, not the hardcore stuff, but general trauma.
Let me talk to you about how I got COVID and almost died. My family didn't care today. No, that did happen, but that's for another story.
I'm gonna let Caleb open it up on this one because I've got to think about this a little bit. We're kind of recording this on the fly, just while we're in the moment. We're in the mood, got the juices flowing here, so. I'm going to let him open it up and kind of take it away while I think of mine.
Yeah, all right, here it is. Shouldn't have to be said, but this is all straight shooting, no BS. All right, so the year's like, what is it, like 2017? It's 2017. So my longtime girlfriend, now turned fiance, but not at the time, she was going to the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. And I was on the way back from a conjugal visit, if you know what I mean. And so, I'm headed back from Charleston. If you're familiar with the area, you know that there's the landmarks between Conway and Charleston or Myrtle Beach if you're going there. And 701's the long stretch of highway, and there's the landmark of between Conway and Georgetown. So Georgetown's kind of your checkpoint, and then it's Georgetown to Charleston. The rest of the way, you're still on the same highway the whole time. And so there's kind of the dark section of road between Georgetown and Charleston. It's mostly McClellanville, and it's a dead zone, no cell service, nothing like that. And whenever you're coming through Mount Pleasant on the way back towards Georgetown, there's a few gas stations here right after you're coming out of Mount Pleasant, and then, middle of nowhere. And you're kind of, screwed if your car breaks down or something. So, it's probably fall. And, yeah, it had to have been fall. So it was fall, probably around 6 o'clock. So it's kind of, dark or almost dark. And, I got to take a wazzy-frazzy, if you know what I'm saying. Got a little what
the hell does that mean?
It means I had to relieve my bladder. So stop at a gas station, a fuel purveyor, and I empty my hose into the community pool, if you know what I'm saying. So, maybe I got a drink or something. I don't think so. So, I use the bathroom, got done with my business, walk out. Drive my mom's car. It's an Altima. Or no, it's a Maxima. Sorry, it's a Nissan Maxima. Because my truck would not really brave that trip. So I'm in the Nissan Maxima. I'm at the door. And I'm about to get in. There's this guy. It's an elderly gentleman, probably in his 60s, 70s maybe. So it's this older black guy, and he's like, hey man, come here. And so he's a couple feet away, so I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what's up? And he was wearing a veteran hat, and so he had a Vietnam vet hat. So he's asking me, he's like, are you in the military? And I was like, no. And I found it kind of funny that he asked me that because I'm a long hair guy. I don't know if I had long hair at the time, but I've had long hair for most of my time, or shaggy hair. He was like, "Are you
for most of my time?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Jesus Christ. All right. So
do it right next to the mic. Thanks.
Oh, me so horny. Okay. So. Yeah, I have long hair, so I don't look like a military guy. I'm a pretty small frame guy, especially at the time. I was probably a couple pounds lighter than I am now. So I was confused, but I was like, no. I was like, oh, I was in the military. And I was like, really? We're in a Vietnam vet hat. I never would have guessed. Where'd you serve? But so he starts telling me about his time in Vietnam, and I'm just kind of shaking my head. I'm kind of a go with the flow kind of person, or more of a I don't know how to get out of a situation type of person. So I was sitting there. He's telling me, and he's just talking about General Westmoreland and stuff, and and I'm just like, okay, I really want to leave. And it's weird. And then he starts getting into like darker territory. He's talking about like eating monkey brains and shit in Cambodia, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck?
I don't remember that part.
I didn't tell the whole story to you, dude.
Oh,
so
man.
yeah, he's talking about eating monkey brains and stuff, and I'm like, damn. Like I'm ready to leave at this point. I'm like, man, this is not kosher. I need to get the hell out of here. But he's like, hey man, let's go out behind the building, and I was like, and he was like, yeah, but he was like, let's go out behind the building. And I'm like, well, I mean, if he's gonna kill me, he'll do it right here if I don't go with him. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go with him. So I went with him behind the building, which was not a smart decision. In hindsight's 2020. Don't do that. So I go back behind there, and he's like, still telling me this stuff. Like, talking about killing people and shit, and like, this is a guy whose soundtrack is "Fortunate Son" by Creedence Clearwater Revival. I mean, he was
because we thought it was by Nickelback.
This fucking dickhead. This guy's like the embodiment of the Vietnamese speaking trees, so he keeps talking to me and delving into this dark stuff, and I'm just like, man, I gotta get out of here, because we're behind the building at this point. It's getting darker. I need to be home, so he's like, all right, man, I bet I can make you say your mom's name. And I was like, what? He's like, I bet I can make you say your mama's name. And I was like, okay. So this dude straight grabs my arm, twists it around behind my back like a WWE wrestler or something, dude. I mean, like, I've broken my wrist before. I feel like my arm's going to snap. I've broken my fair share of arms, so I could speak on this. This man's about to break my arm, and I'm just sitting there like squirming like a fresh piggy. And he's like, say your mama's name. And I'm like, like, no joke. I was like, dude, what am I going to do? And like, I'm stunned. And he's like, say your mama's name. And I belted Juanita, out of the top of my lungs. I was like, Juanita. And like, I mean, like, I said it like 10 times because I needed this. I needed this man to stop. I was like, and like, I mean, the funny thing is, it's like this. Nobody calls my mom Juanita. My mom, that's her name, but everybody calls her Tammy. And so, like, the funny thing is, like, this man's gonna know if I don't say my mom's real name. So I got to say Juanita. I can't say Tammy, or he's gonna beat the shit out of me. So I had to say Juanita, or else things were gonna go even more south.
Oh man.
And then this dude drives by in a truck and just waves at him. Like, I'm still here, like, and he's waving at whoever this dude that's wrangling me was just like, hey. And, like, I'm like, and he lets me go after I say Juanita for, like, the 1,000th time. And he's like, hey, man, I'm just trying to hustle some money for a sub. So, like, you got any money? I was like, dude, I don't have any money. He's like, all right, you could go. So I get my mom's Maxima. In Juanita's Maxima.
That's the title of this podcast. Is Juanita's
Maxima. That's the title of my next album. But
tape.
I pushed to start, I threw it in reverse, and got on 701 or whatever it's called.
Put that thing in sport.
No, dude, I went like 80 miles per hour after. Like, dude, like
the Maxima is actually a surprisingly capable vehicle. It goes pretty quick.
Yeah, it's sporty. It's
four-door sports car.
The four-door sports cars. Mom, loves to tell us all the time. She's like, it's
insurance is actually pretty expensive.
They call it the four-door sports car, sonny.
Next raffle on CC on the Beach is going to win a fully equipped Nissan Maxima 4-door sports car.
But yeah, so I sped home, going like 80 through there, which was not smart because I was pulled over through there before, not this current time, but another time that I was going for a conjugal visit. But no, I was a virgin at the time.
Thanks for that knowledge, trivia with CC on the Beach,
MoMA. So I called Claire. Claire was calling me an idiot and stuff. Claire was not happy. I did not tell my parents because I was like, they're not going to let me ever come back here if they found out that I did something this stupid. So I did not tell. I did tell them recently whenever we were talking about like Satan worshipers and stuff. We were talking about that, and then somehow that got brought up. So yeah, that's my first story. Do you have a story ready yet?
I actually thought of the perfect one, and you'll get a massive kick out of this.
Is this a story I've heard before?
Yeah, you were there for it.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Guys ready to go back to school? Me too.
There's too much inside stuff going on here that nobody's going to understand.
Yeah, some of this stuff has to be cut out.
Anyway, so no, it doesn't. They'll figure it out along the way. But
inside joke brought to you by Mom.
Dude, I got the giggles, man.
Okay.
The Juanita thing, dude.
Dude, it was. I mean, that was choose our thought process. I was like, if I say Tammy, this guy's gonna be like, "That's not your mama's name."
Anyway, dude. So,
but here's Christian's story.
I'm glad that I stop, dude. Okay. Anyway, so I think the year has got to be like 08 to maybe no. Honestly, it's probably like 2010. It's either 2010 or 2011. I'm fresh out of 8th grade. I'm pretty positive.
Oh, I think I know where this is going. This is a good story.
I'm pretty positive that this is between 8th and 9th grade. It was a great summer. We lived in a really cool tiny house downtown Conway in South Carolina. And we had a friend of mine named Robert. Robert, if you're listening, miss you, buddy. Hope you're listening. Hope you can get a kick out of this. But essentially, that was one of the greatest summers of our lives. We were out late every night. We were just kids. I mean, Caleb was probably, how are you when you go
11?
to high school? 14?
Yeah, you were like 14, so I was like 11.
I thought I was younger than that, but I guess I was about 14, and Caleb was around 12, 11. So we go to Robert's house, and Robert was not the best influence on us. Robert was kind of me and Caleb were both private schooled up until
that year, that year of school, that summer before was like
the schooling before that summer was my first year in public school. So I had been really sheltered up until that point, and Robert was a friend of my mom's, and he was kind of my introduction into the real world. So he was definitely edgy compared to what Caleb and I were used to. So anyway, Robert and I have a sleepover, and Caleb comes, because typical situation, Mom says, "Oh, your brother has to come." So
it's because she was out meeting Timmy.
Yeah.
Timmy, please come back.
Anyway, no, Caleb was actually pretty cool with Robert too. We had a good thing going that summer. We would ride bikes around everywhere. So anyway, Robert lived out like in the complete sticks at the time, like in the boonies. So
like near Homewood Elementary, if you're familiar.
Yeah, if you're local, like deep out there. So we go to stay at his house, and he really thought about this ahead of time. Like the more I think about it, the more I realize how premeditated this was and kind of how sick it was. He was seeding it all night. Like he was instilling little drops of fear in us all night. And it was totally
starting in the daytime.
We
got there like
hours
early in the day.
before what I'm going to tell you happened. This started hours before.
Yeah, you got to build up the whole story.
So anyway, we get to his house, and he's got this cool golf cart. And back there in the boonies, there's not traffic, so we're out riding on the highway, doing reckless stuff. Again, bad influence. Anyway, so he starts telling us, "Hey, there's this guy that lives in the woods out here. His name is Chocolate." This story is batshit, and you're gonna realize that. But keep in mind, again, we're very impressionable. I wanted to be likable to public school people, and so we were along for the ride. Robert was our host, and we were just chilling.
I can't say that on here.
So he says, "Hey, there's this guy named Chocolate that lives in the woods." Right off the bat, I should have known it was bullshit, but anyway, so I'm like, "Oh, tell me more."
Well, at first we did. We said this is
ridiculous. Yeah, we did. We were definitely like, "Nah, no way." And Robert was like, "No, like he lives out here, And I mean, we do in the Myrtle Beach area and stuff. There's a ton of homeless people, so like it wasn't a far cry, but it gets so much crazier. So
but
anyway,
he was like the thing was it was like he was our age or like around that age. It wasn't like he was like a 30-year-old man or anything.
Yeah, he did say chocolate was like a kid, so that's where we first were like
he was like kicked out of school and stuff.
We were like, okay, no, this isn't real. And he's like, no, he is. He's my friend. And again, he never really gave. I think we believed it just because he sold it so well. He kept going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, he was talking about like how he like made you like give like a skin offering or something.
Yeah, so
like it was crazy.
Essentially, he said what chocolate's gonna, and he basically said we're gonna have to meet him. He said there was no way around it. He said chocolate is gonna meet us tonight. And he only comes out after night. Like I only ever see him after nighttime, and so we're gonna have to ride the golf cart out and go talk to him. But before all that, he was basically telling us.
I mean, this is honestly bringing up like deep-seated, like scary
no, it is.
memories.
This,
like, I like
this
feel
was
the,
this
I
was
feel
horrifying.
the fear that I like felt then.
This was horrifying when it happened. So, essentially, Robert was telling us all day, like, "Hey, there's this kid that lives in the woods," and he said, I don't remember if it was like his parents died or he got kicked out for being a bad kid. Anyway, he was a loner. He was on his own in the woods, and he ate food off of the locals. You know, Robert gave him food. That's what Robert told us. And Caleb has a much better memory than I do, so chime in if I get something wrong. But
well, like we were riding 4-wheelers that day, whenever we were doing that, and we were riding by Homewood, and he was like, I see chocolate over there.
Yeah,
like,
he would tell us.
Yeah.
He's like, I just saw chocolate move out there. And we're like, no way, dude. And he's like, no, I mean, you don't hear him. Anytime something rustled, he'd be like, oh, that was chocolate. And he basically said, chocolate knows the area like the back of his hand. And basically he said,
but it was one of those things that was like, normally whenever somebody's telling a story like that, it's like they eventually kind of give up. They're just like they're not buying this. And like I've been in that.
Robert is
a
trickster too. Robert was like probably like one of the funniest guys I knew back in the day.
Oh, he was hilarious.
And he would take things so far. Like he would, it was almost to a fault at points. Like he would go so far with certain jokes, and this was one of them. And
yeah, I mean, it was literally like there's no way he would do this for like a stupid joke. It was just it got to the point where it's like okay, and like the thing was he got his friends in on it. Like
and we'll get there. It's like, but the point where we started getting scared was he said you're gonna have to meet Chocolate, and he's aggressive, and he told us that personally he had to basically overcome a rite of passage to be friends with Chocolate. He told us that Chocolate basically beat the shit out of him in order to be friends with him. He said, I don't know, it's basically like a hazing of sorts. He basically said, yeah,
like
Chocolate,
a blood offering, like
yeah,
almost.
And he said basically Chocolate would ask for a piece of your skin, and basically he swore to us. He said, no, he won't go that far, but he might punch you or something just to freak you out. And we were like, no, Chocolate's not gonna touch me. Like there's not a chance Chocolate is going to touch me. And he was like, no, he will punch, and if you don't just let him do it, he will assault you. Like he'll beat the shit out of you. So we were like, all right, whatever. And at this point, it was definitely getting tense. Sun was going down by the minute.
And like I'll say because he had his friends come. We went over to his friend's house, Chris, and they were all saying the same thing.
I did forget about that.
Yeah,
Chris,
they were saying like
Chris
like,
was in on it also.
And Kim, his younger sister, who was my age and who I went to school with, I don't think I knew her at the time, but she was my age, and she was like, yeah, like, and like talked about how like
she even said Chocolate beat her up.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, he pushed me down and I like hurt my knee, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Well,
and like,
she had a hurt knee at the time.
Yeah,
she had like a brace on her. I remember that.
And she was my age, so I was like, okay, this isn't like, and like again, it was like everybody was in on it. It was like elaborate. There was no way that they all just did this on the fly.
It's very twisted thinking back on it,
dude. And like this is like seriously like
she had a brace on literally, or like gauze or something.
Yeah, it was.
And she told us, "Oh, he did this."
This was premeditated. This was like, and like again, I like it worked because I'm getting worked up and like freaked out about it because I'm going back to my 10-year-old body and like I'm freaked out.
This was so intense because again, we had never done anything like this. We never stayed out late. We never.
And I mean, I never stayed. Like, I mean, Christian did. Christian went to people's houses, but like, I'll just say about our parents. We have very good parents, but like any time that I went over to a kid's house, like my parents instantly gave us, like at that age or younger, they were like, don't let their parents rape you. Basically, they were like, don't let anybody touch you. Don't let anybody.
They gave us the spiel.
If somebody's drinking, don't get in the car with them. Don't let anybody touch you where you know you shouldn't be touched. Like I make it sound weird, but I mean like it was. We were very sheltered, and like I never stayed at people's houses. I always had people stay at my house, and even I didn't have people do that often. So Christian was more well versed in that, and like I
was older too. I mean,
I just it was never something that I liked to do. But so this is.
I do remember that though. That's funny that you brought Chris and his sister into it because I totally remember walking into the house and Robert was like, "Yeah, y'all have met Chocolate, right?" And Chris was like, "Oh, I know Chocolate. Yeah, he." And they were all telling us like how he beat the crap out of him, how he shoved them. And yeah, I remember the second it became real for me was when she showed us the knee injury, and she was like, "Oh, Chocolate did this to me. He shoved me down." But he's cool. Like, he becomes your friend. And I don't know why they tried to make it out like he becomes your friend. I don't know why.
This was serious.
It was weird. Looking back
up
on it, it's a weird story. But anyway,
this isn't like night. This is like 2 in the morning.
Advanced darkness.
Like, I mean, because at night, I mean, like, we were at his house for at least part of the time, I guess, waiting for his mom to go sleep, because I don't know if she fancied him walking around,
we were on the golf cart on the highway.
Well, yeah, so, like, I mean,
pitch black.
Because, like, for part of the night, at least, I mean, we were back at the house. I mean, this is around, like, 2 in the morning. Like,
yeah, no, it was late, because, again, you got to think it's summer. It doesn't even get dark until, like, 9 o'clock in South Carolina in the summer, so it was
this was, like, 2 in the morning.
Like past bedtime. Was it that late?
It was. I think so. I don't think it was like 11 or anything. It was at least. Shut the fuck up, Claire.
No, we're getting there, dude. I'm telling you, this build-up is worth it.
It is important. You have to know, like, the details, like how scary it was. Because, like, I mean, again,
we have to frame it.
We didn't do stuff like this. Like, we.
Okay.
No, shut up, Claire. You're not in the discussion.
You're not part of the potty.
I mean, okay. Like,
we just talked about not rambling too much. And
okay, yeah, but...
no, I agree, though.
Still,
this is something, dude, you really have to understand the fear.
I cannot stress enough, like, our mindsets. Because we didn't ever go out past bedtime. I've never snuck out in my life to this day. I mean, Christian did, like, well into his teens. But, like, I mean, at this age, again, we're still very sheltered, like Christian said. So, you know, there already was, like, sort of a thrill about, like, being outside this late, and like, I don't know what's going to happen.
That too. And again, it's the sticks. There's no street lights. There's no nothing. It was just the headlights of the golf cart, and it was cornfields, dude. All we could see was woods, cornfields, and highway, and it was. So anyway, I'll get on with it. So Robert tells us, all right, you know, and I don't even know why we believed him or how I don't know if he told us Chocolate had a cell phone, but he essentially was like, all right, I've arranged the meeting with Chocolate. And we were like, hell no. Like, we're not meeting with Chocolate.
I don't even think it was like that. It was just like, let's I don't think it was that formal.
Oh, no, he did. It was more of a let's go look for Chocolate. Yeah, it could have been like that.
So we go out on the golf cart. And again, it's terrifying at this time of night.
It's pitch black.
Like, without the story, it's already, there is a thrill. Because, again, especially if you haven't done stuff like this before, it's just like the feeling of, like, if you're surfing for the first time or something, there's that thrill of, like, oh, I'm doing something that's, like, not, and, like, you know, so it's already kind of freaky. And
yeah, so essentially,
you go ahead and tell the climax of the story.
Robert says, let's go out and look for Chocolate. And I was like, no. And we were like, no, we're not doing that. It's pitch black outside. He said, no, just hop on the golf cart. And I think he eventually kind of calmed us down. He was like, no, okay, we'll just ride. So that's how he got us on the golf cart. And we get on the golf cart, and this is where the terrifying part happens. He starts basically banshee screaming into the night, saying, like, yeah.
No, because at first we saw a figure walking down the road.
Yeah, we did. Yes, we did.
So there's a figure walking down the road, and he doesn't say this is Chocolate or anything. He's just like, oh, there's somebody over there. He's like, he might have said it might be Chocolate or something, but it wasn't like that's definitely Chocolate. It's just we see a figure on the road, like, clothed in black entirely, and he parks the golf cart and just starts shouting at this figure.
Yeah, he parks it. That is an important... And so he stops, and he basically is screaming into the woods after we saw the figure, and he's like, Chocolate, Chocolate, and he's just screaming, slapping the side of the golf cart, just screaming. And at this point, me and Caleb, I clearly remember shedding a couple of tears.
Funny.
I was literally tugging Robert's collar on his shirt, saying, dude, I swear to God, please don't do this to us. Like, I don't want to meet Chocolate. Like, can we please just go? And... So, Caleb spoiled it a little bit, but essentially, the figure turns around and has a ghost face mask on from Scream and starts running after us. And
let me inform you that 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old me, however old, the youngest by a good 3-year stretch, I'm on the back.
Oh, yeah, he's on the back.
I'm on the back. Christian and Robert are in the front. I'm on the back.
And the figure was to the back of us.
And so... the golf cart's not that fast, and Robert's obviously in on it with Chris, so he's not going full speed. He's going fast enough to where it looks like we're going somewhere, but fast enough to where, or slow enough to where Chris, who is chocolate.
Yeah,
kid.
it turns out Chris was chocolate. So,
But dude, this build up probably did not pay off for you, the listener. But I cannot.
No, this was a fun story to tell, dude.
How stressful this was. Like, and I mean, again, I'm kicking at him. Like,
well,
I
was gonna say, but again, back to the fear. Like when we saw the figure and Robert was screaming for chocolate. I mean, I remember Caleb. I straight up remember Caleb crying. I was gripping Robert's sleeves, his collar. I was like, dude. I was like, just turn around. Let's just go back home. I was like, we don't care about chocolate. And he's like, no, we gotta meet chocolate.
Dude, he tore my shoe off.
Yeah, Chris starts chasing us, and Robert's going, laughing his ass off. And I remember Caleb. Did he took your shoe off and did he beat you with it? He
threw it at me.
Oh, okay. He threw it at you. So, and then eventually, joke was up. Chris took the mask off, and it was.
Side note,
Scooby-Doo reveal.
Dude, side note, the balls on Chris to be walking.
Yeah, I was gonna
by himself.
I was gonna
waiting
for
this
to
happen. Waiting for this to happen.
That's just, I guess that's a byproduct of growing up in the sticks. I was going to loop back to that as well. Chris was waiting out there for God knows how long in the pitch black woods to scare us.
Absolutely one of the scariest nights.
You could not have given me $500 as a kid to do that. There's no, like, to wait out in the woods like that, or even drive a golf cart, and be responsible. It's just, looking back on it, I honestly can't believe it. Like
I don't see how I legitimately didn't shit my pants.
I'm glad that I remember this story because I had a couple of other lame ones that I was thinking about telling. But this dude.
Let's talk about the time that Chris Angel half made me levitate in my bedroom.
Okay, wait. Okay, holy crap! I forgot all about that. Okay, let's apply the brakes to chocolate. Close that out. So anyway, it was all fun and games. Chocolate wasn't real.
But we still even though
I was scared for the rest of the night.
That was the initial fear of it was gone and everything, and it was fine. And it was kind of like, okay, this was the long con. It was a big joke that they had been doing the whole night.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I totally forgot about the story.
It's a short story. This one's short. It's not even.
Yeah, we can both break down into a couple more simple short ones now. I totally forgot about this, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Now that he said it,
remember it. Like I remember, dude. Okay, so this is we lived in this house, probably my favorite house that we lived in.
It's the same downtown house that we hung out with.
This is Sitchfield.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
So
I forget Caleb loves that house.
Oh, I love this house so much. The architecture is nice, but that's beside the point. All right, so picture this. We're in a room. I remember just about everything on the wall. Christian's got his Maxim poster on the wall, right when you come in the door.
Had to prove my heterosexuality.
He's got one of those big box TVs on this wooden stand, and he's got his last name, or our last name, written in cursive on the front of this box thing, and he's got a double bed that's on the floor almost. It's very short, and he's got a cool bedspread. And so we're about the same age here, maybe a year older, probably.
I'm always at least 2 years older than you.
Well, yeah, but
it's
you were dating Haley around this time.
Yeah, this was back in the day. Yeah.
It was around the same.
Probably more.
This was obviously after the last story because we were at Sedgefield. We loved Chris Angel Mind Freak.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this was back when we first had Netflix. I think it was on Netflix that we were watching it. He's like, at the end of this one episode, he's like, all right, I can make you levitate through the TV. And we're like, oh, shit. And I think more it's about
it's a mind thing.
I think it's letting your mind go to the point where you feel like you're levitating.
Yeah, of course, yeah. He coached you through what to do through the TV.
And it was very
with his guy liner on and everything else.
No, it was very creepy because he would do the countdown and it would go into that deep bass like Eminem on My Darling, whatever you call it, the voice effect where it's very low.
Yeah.
And so Christian tried it and nothing happened. So, I'm like, okay, I'm going to levitate. I dig into me and I'm like, I want to fly.
You still had youth on your side. I was a seasoned adult by then.
I was not tainted by anything, and so
except for Chris Angel at that point.
Yeah. So I'm doing it and I did. I just turned my mind off and I just did everything he said, and I felt lighter. And I hear Christian freaking out, Christian's making noise.
Yeah, after the fact. Yeah, Caleb had no idea what happened after the fact.
I just turned my mind off. I just let myself go there. I was able to turn my mind off, and like I felt weightless. And like I mean, I could hear Christian reacting in the moment, but like it wasn't like anything like crazy. But it was like it was an out of body experience. It was like I wasn't there. And like Christian was like, "Dude, your arms were floating." I mean, obviously I wasn't floating like levitating, but like my arms were like in the air, and like
yeah, your feet basically, you got on your tiptoes, like you started to feel weightless, and his goal was to pretty much get you on your tiptoes, and your arms would raise up at the sides. And I clearly remember watching the TV back, and Caleb's in front of it, eyes closed and everything, and like exactly like you said, he was kind of blank, and he just went there, and I so clearly remember his arms going up, and I freaked the hell out. I was like, no way. I was like, he's got to be faking this. And then afterwards he was like, like,
dude, it was weird for sure. That was I mean, kids, you're probably thinking like, oh, they're so dumb, but like it was weird. Like I mean, we were kids.
Yeah, again, at this point, these are funny kid memories.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of spooky. Like it's not for me. I mean, at least remembering it and being in the headspace of like being a 10-year-old, 11-year-old going through that.
The only other really podcast acceptable scary experience that I have that I can tell, and this is something a lot of people have experienced and can probably relate to.
Please don't talk about sleep paralysis.
It'll
freak me out too much. I get freaked out by that.
I mean, do you really not want me to talk about it?
I mean, you can.
Well, the good news is it happened to me during the daytime. So I have experienced sleep paralysis, and I didn't see anything. It was
okay, I was about to say I don't.
No, it was purely like a sensory thing. So what happened to me was it was like a weekend. I didn't have work or school or anything. I was younger, probably 16, 17, maybe even 18 when this happened. I was younger, but so I clearly remember just waking up on my own. You know, it's the weekend. I had no alarm set, no nothing. I remember one weekend my eyes just shot open, and I saw the sun coming through my window. I saw that it was daytime, and I went to go take the covers off, get up, take a morning piss, and get on with my day. And I couldn't move. I went to get out of bed, and I couldn't move. And when I tell you it was one of the most absolutely terrifying things I've ever experienced, I know that people have way, way, way worse experiences with sleep paralysis, like seeing things and such. And my mom actually has a horrifying story of sleep paralysis. But mine was purely just the paralysis part of it. It was daytime, but I couldn't open my mouth. I couldn't talk. All I could do was move my eyeballs. And I remember I tried so hard to move, to get out of bed, to do anything. And I was moving with every muscle that I possibly could, and I could not move. And it got to the point where I tried to scream. I couldn't scream. And I thought I was paralyzed. I thought I broke my neck in my sleep or something, and now I'm paralyzed. And it was that serious. And eventually I remember kind of feeling my right arm wiggle, and I was pushing it with everything that I had, and I don't know what happened, but when it finally moved, it was like whoosh, like my arm like flew up because I was putting forth so much effort. And I remember, I mean, you've got to, like, it's one of those things, like, you've got to experience it to really get it, but my freaking heart was pounding, my forehead was starting to sweat, like, I thought I was paralyzed for the rest of my life. I had no idea what was going on. And when I finally, when my arm finally flew up, I just kind of, I had to take a second to chill out. I sat on the edge of my bed and just like hyperventilated for a couple of seconds. And, I think the science behind it is, we see dogs, sometimes dogs will run in their sleep or they'll bark in their sleep and stuff. And dogs will enter REM sleep where your brain handles most of the controls, where essentially your brain paralyzes you in your sleep so that you can't act out your dreams. That's the clearest way I can put it. And you see it with dogs. They'll twitch, and that's why we twitch, but we don't fully move. I don't know, dude. It was an extremely terrifying experience, and it was nothing paranormal about it, nothing too weird. It was just the fact that I genuinely thought I was paralyzed forever. And when I finally got up, and it's one thing very few people know, like it's kind of hard to tell people the story in person because it changes the mood, makes things weird. But, and it's one of those things, if you haven't experienced it, you won't care as much. But if you have experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's horrifying. So
one time I had a dream that I was playing football, and like I was lining up for the kick, and whenever I kicked the football in the dream, like I kicked my leg in real life and woke up.
I've experienced
it was
stuff
very
like that
funny.
Before. I've had dreams where
I fell out of bed.
I've had dreams where like I've gotten stabbed in the arm or something, and I've woken up with arm pain. But I think it's the arm pain that caused the stab dream. Obviously, not vice versa. I think I got a cramp in my sleep or something, and my brain tried to rationalize it by saying I got stabbed.
This one time I was in my room, and my TV the volume started going up like rapidly, like without like provocation. Like
without me turning it up on the remote. That's all you had to say, Einstein. Without provocation, my TV started turning up.
I got up and like sprinted out of the room, and I realized I was just sitting on the remote the whole time. I think that's all. This has been The Eve, featuring Cece on the beach.
You guys have a beautiful evening. We'll see you back next time.
Moment.